The culture of intoxication, what does it mean? Well, basically it means drinking alcohol with the aim of getting very drunk. Now, not everyone does this, not all young people do this, but it is quite a pervasive social norm amongst quite a few young people, certainly in the UK and in different parts of the world. And it's integral to a lot of young people's social lives, associated with fun, friendship, having a good time. It's widespread amongst young people in the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, North America. I could go on, not everywhere. But there are regional variations, local variations, but we know it's most common where alcohol policies are most liberal and licensing regulations are most slack. And I've been involved in research around this issue for the past 10 years or so, and I'm involved in a new research group called UK Centre for Tobacco and Alcohol Studies. And I'm going to talk about the impact, particularly of social media and alcohol marketing online today. So, surely young people have always got drunk, certainly in the UK, and to some degree that's true. But there's something about the culture of intoxication that's different. There's been a change from these sorts of venues, so-called old men's pubs, which are closing at the rate of at least 50 a week across the UK, to much more trendy bars aimed at young people, often more female-friendly, more longer licensing hours. And all this started in the UK, at least, in around the mid-1990s. After rave culture, which was based around ecstasy and water, not booze, the alcohol industry responded and marketed things like Alco-Pops. Gradual shifts started to occur. So some products aimed at young people, some aimed at young women. And that led to what's sometimes called the culture of extreme drinking or determined drunkenness. Now this is a yard of ale, a pub sign, a picture of a very tall beer glass that dates originally from 17th century England. It's been around a long time as a drinking game. It holds about 1.5 litres of ale, beer, maybe 2.5 pints, and drinkers, usually male, would aim to drink this as fast as possible. I'd like you to know that the fastest time in the Guinness Book of Records for drinking a yard of ale is 5 seconds. And for any of you who've ever tried it, you'll know that that little globe at the end produces a glug, so it slaps into your face at the end. And here are some people doing just that. Now, I do have a prop somewhere. My prop. Here is my prop. This is a plastic yard of ale, moving from 0 at the top through pathetic, lightweight, average, good effort, excellent, and hero at the bottom. It was given to me, I have to say, by a university student. And it holds about 1 litre and a bit. So the yard of ale is still around. Now, if you drink alcohol, you may have come across the term binge drinker all over the press, much of the time, certainly in the UK. Are you a binge drinker? How is a binge defined? Lots of different ways, but a common way is consuming double the recommended daily levels of alcohol, which is associated coming from the Department of Health in the UK. Now, the daily safe or sensible limits would be 4 units for men and 3 units for women per day. Now, consuming double those on a single drinking occasion is 8 units for men and 6 for women, or translated into actual alcohol. This is around 2.5 pints of Stella Lager, 5.5 bottles of Smirnoff Ice for men. For women, 2.5 standard glasses of wine, not the 250ml ones, and 4 bottles of WKD or Bacardi Breezer. So we know that the levels of so-called binge drinking in the UK have been plateauing off in the past few years after a big rise from the mid-90s. But underneath this figure, some people are drinking more, and particularly some young people, and some are drinking less or abstaining. But we do know that drinking above this level has become a norm, that cultural norm of intoxication. So recent research at a nearby university in the southwest of England, and I won't mention which, in 2011 and 12, found that 47% of female students and 71% of male students reported drinking more than the recommended daily amount of alcohol every time they drank alcohol. So, what's the cost of this? Let's look at the costs. There are lots of different stats about the costs. One of them is that in 2008, in England alone, so just England, £120 billion, the cost of treating alcohol-related illness. Everything from emergency rooms to liver cancer. So alcohol's been rated the most harmful drug in the UK, legal and illegal. In the short term, drinking heavily impairs our thought processes, our attention, our memory. Obvious implications for students' academic performance if kept up for long enough. It's also associated with high-risk sexual behaviour, physical assaults. There are long-term health consequences, liver cancer, and so on, high blood pressure. Now, what happens if we add social media to this mix? So there's been a rapid growth, as we all know, in the use of social media, mobile technology, smartphones amongst young people around the world, especially in the UK. And we know that drinking and getting drunk are common themes in many young people's social media pages, especially Facebook pages. Sharing photos of yourself and your friends, drinking and getting drunk are very common themes amongst young people. And there are lots of websites and Facebook pages in which have uploaded photos of drunken young people, often without their knowledge and consent, spotted out and about, in Bath, for example, embarrassing nightclub photos, carnage, and so on. So we're all sort of encouraged to be celebrities nowadays, and many of our celebrity photos involve us and others being drunk. And I guess some of you will have come across the phenomenon of neck nomination, which has been in the news recently. An online drinking game starting in Australia rapidly gained popularity across the world. Participants film themselves drinking a pint, well, of an alcoholic beverage or other things, which I won't go into, and then nominate 2 others to do the same in the next 24 hours. So there's certainly a sort of bit of pressure on there. It's been associated with various hospitalizations and even deaths, but also simply drinking to intoxication has been associated with deaths and hospitalizations. So, what about marketing, alcohol marketing on social media? Well, we know that Diageo, which is really a British-based multinational alcoholic beverages company, owns most of the spirits brands and major producer of beers and wines. In 2010, they made a big investment in social media alcohol marketing so that it accounted for 21% of their marketing budget, which is substantial, across the world. The next year, they announced they'd step up their links with Facebook and said that they'd enjoyed a 20% increase in sales directly because of this. So digital alcohol marketing is aiming to produce a relationship between the user and the brand. And the way that this operates for young people in relation to alcohol marketing is, on some levels, a concern. So there's lots of different forms of alcohol marketing. Straightforward adverts, Twitter, Facebook for brands, Facebook pages of particular brands, but also bars and clubs, information about cheap deals, and of course users engage with that through likes, comments and shares, promotions, particular events, tie-ins to real-world events, which could be music festivals, smartphone apps, and a great deal more. So let's have a look at a smartphone app. Here is Frank. This is the Let's Get Wasted smartphone app. An Australian study recently looked at alcohol-related smartphone apps and actually called their paper after this one. So here's Frank. It's an entertainment app that enables users to drink with other people online. So Frank, I don't want to drink alone, so I drink with, and he drinks with people he knows, maybe people he doesn't know, says how much he's drinking, and then John comes in. Related to how much John says he's been drinking, he's loaded. And then we've got Lucy, she's drunk. Various little icons say what they've been up to. And then Frank and Homer Simpson at the bottom, who apparently is well-oiled. Then it gets a bit more complicated. You can look at changes over time. So this is a graph that maps your state over time, depending on what you've been drinking. And here's another one. This is the BeerBuddy iPhone app. Now, this starts with the message of social responsible alcohol marketing, always drink responsibly, undermined almost immediately by I want to reach a state of pure inebriation with least cost and fewest cost. So everything is covered, all bases covered. We know from research that young women are often more likely to be concerned about the number of calories in alcohol, and sometimes will drink vodka because they think it's got fewer calories in. And cost is a concern to a lot of young people when they're drinking. So there hasn't, here we go, this is the full roundup of what you can do and what you can get for how many calories, so you can think about it as you're in the bar and do the calculations. This is an American app. So what about research findings on this topic? There's not a great deal of research, there's starting to be more. It's very difficult to do research on how much of this material young people are actually exposed to online. But from a study we've conducted in New Zealand, and which I'm aiming to continue in the UK in the next few years, we know young people, and this is legal age drinkers, are exposed to a great deal of alcohol-related content online, especially through social media sites. But it isn't just being exposed to an ad and sitting there and look at it on your timeline. It's also interactive engagement through likes, comments and shares. And one of the things we found in the New Zealand study with 18 to 25-year-olds from a range of ethnic and economic backgrounds was that young adults don't necessarily view online alcohol marketing as advertising. They see it often as useful information about cheap deals. And if you want to know more about this study, there's a website there you can have a look at. So, what is the solution? Well, at the macro level, we know that cost and availability make a difference. We know that cost and availability are related to how much people consume. And the drinks we are all able to buy are stronger and more available than they ever have been. And the government in the UK, the coalition government, has come very close recently to endorsing minimum unit pricing. And there's a lot of research that indicates that this would make a difference. As far as availability goes, alcohol's now available in motorway service stations, so there is an issue there. Regulation of alcohol advertising, particularly to young people, doesn't really take into account social media marketing, and there's a very strong case for reviewing the code of advertising practice, particularly in the UK. But I want to look at the bottom one there, you and me. What can we do? What can you do? I would think about a number of what-ifs. So what if it was no longer seen as funny or fun to drink lots and wake up in your own vomit, as some of the young people we've talked to said, or lying next to a stranger you can't remember having sex with? What if young people didn't feel they had to be very drunk just to talk to somebody? What if no one felt isolated from their friends if they didn't drink at all or didn't drink a lot? What if it was okay not to do a round of shots when everyone else did? And what if it was no longer seen as normal or even funny to end up in an emergency room at the end of a night out? And what if the alcohol industry didn't make quite so much profit and the government didn't make quite so much money out of tax on alcohol? And then the cost of policing the nighttime economy and the cost to the health service and the cost to a lot of people's livers would also decrease. And the money could maybe be used elsewhere. So may your life someday be as awesome as you pretend it is on Facebook. And there's a number of contact details there. So thanks very much.